So things have been quiet on the Scott front, which is actually great for us because we can get more done in this presentation and keep pushing it forward. I just stumbled across text linking in Macabacus. So this is going to enable us to get titles and subtitles, which are live and connected dynamically to the numbers back in our Excel file. Let's jump in and take a look. Now you probably have the title up here, comparable trading, but I added a quick subtitle there. Now let's take a look at this slide. Comparable trading, target company valuation derived from trading levels of the peer group companies. Now these statements might be factually correct, but they're just not very compelling. They're not in any way tailored to this client. They're not catching our attention. They're not communicating an opinion, and they're certainly not telling a story. What we really want to do here is figure out what our view or opinion is, and then make sure that gets communicated clearly across in these titles and subtitles. We'd like to tell a story, and we'd like for these titles to really catch the reader's attention. So let's skip ahead and try a different iteration. So how about this instead? Trading analysis implies an EV of up to 214 million. Similarly sized peers trading in a wide range, which extends to 24 times LTM EBITDA. We can just glance at the title and subtitle and really get the point. The EV could be as high as 214 million. There's a wide range of multiples, but they extend up to 24 times. Now, if you wouldn't mind, maybe pause the video just for a couple seconds and get these typed in, and we're going to make them dynamic. Wait till you see just how easy this is. We're going to pop into this text box and just delete the 214 million and leave the cursor right here. Now we're going to meet you over in Excel. Now from the Excel file, let's scoot across over here. As you can see, we're displaying this number here, 214 in millions. Let's get into that cell and then pop up here to Macabacus. We're going to say Export Excel, and we're going to click Export to PowerPoint. Let's click right here where it says Text, and that'll bring us back over to PowerPoint. Now that first one is done. Let's go to the subtitle here and go across like this and just delete the 24x out, and let's leave an extra space in here just like this. So the cursor's sitting right there. Let's hop over to Excel. Now we can just scoot across right here to this cell where it says 24x, and the same thing. Export Excel. We're going to click right here, Text, and we go back over to the PowerPoint environment. So Macabacus has flipped us over to PowerPoint, but let's go back to Excel just to run a quick test. Now, as you can see, we're back over to Excel because we want to test if this is actually dynamic. Let's go right in here to the LTM EBITDA 9091. Let's hit F2 and just pop in here. Let's just change this first number to a 7 like this, and we'll meet you over in PowerPoint. So what we're going to do back in PowerPoint here is click on the image and then hold down the Control key, click on this text box and this text box, refresh selected links, and watch for the change to come through. Perfect. Now, as you can see, this change has come through to 7 million in LTM EBITDA, and the EV has come down to 167 million. Amazing. Now back here in Excel, let's just hit F2 and pop in here. This first number needs to be a 9. Let's hit enter and get back over to PowerPoint. It's actually kind of fun watching the refresh come through. So let's click the image, and again, these two text boxes, and refresh selected links, just like that. Super fast. So obviously with these titles, we're communicating a lot more information. And as we connect them together, we're going to be telling a story through the presentation. We've also have dynamic text links in here. And if you look at the numbers, you wouldn't even know that they were linked. The formatting blends in perfectly. Let's jump ahead to the next video, and we're going to bang out that precedent slide really fast. As you can see, we're here in PowerPoint looking at precedent transactions. Now this slide should be quick. We know what we're doing now. So all we need to do is click through and bang it out. Let's get started. So first off, let's click this placeholder right here. It's light blue, and scoot over to Excel. Let's move the cursor right down here to the top left corner, cell B7, up to the Macabacus section of the ribbon. And now what we want to do here is guides, and we want to click PowerPoint selection. So we've got our guide in place. We definitely want to make a couple of things pop on this slide. So let's go down here to the maximum and minimum and highlight them, control single quote to put them into orange, and then pop over here and hit F4, and those will go orange as well. Now let's hit Control B for a quick bold, and back over here to these cells and Control B as well for those. Now, in addition to the blue and black font color, we're also seeing right here a green. That's a worksheet link. And we've got that set up already in auto colors. So that should adjust over to gray when we get to PowerPoint. I think we're ready to do the export now. So let's start up on the top left corner, right here where our guide starts. And then we're going to hold down the Shift key and expand across. And remember, we want to stay away from the edges of these guides and inside the red markers, all the way down to there. We want to do an export match none. I don't know if you remember the shortcut, but it's right up here. Macabacus section, it's this one. It's going to be Control Alt Right. So let's hit that on our keyboard. Control Alt Right arrow, and we're over to PowerPoint. Now again, we definitely need to work on these titles and subtitles. Give us a second and we'll come up with something a little bit more creative to put in there. All right, so we're basically saying some recent acquisitions are implying a pretty high EV of 273 million. And we're also saying that every single acquisition that's been done since June 1st, 2021 has been at least 24 times LTM EBITDA. I think you know the next steps. Let's pop in here and we're going to delete out 273 million, leave the cursor in there, pop over to Excel. Now back in Excel, we're actually done with the guides. So while we're here, we might as well go up here under guides and click clear guides to remove those. Now let's scoot all the way across here to the right-hand side and we can see this maximum value of 273 million. We're going to export Excel to PowerPoint. Let's click on text and we're back over to the PowerPoint environment. Now we want to think carefully about the formatting. For example, if we look over in Excel, we're just going to see the number 24, which doesn't have an X. So we're just going to delete the 24, leave the X in place, sit the cursor right there, and move back to Excel to grab that text link. All right, as you can see, we're down here. Let's pop into this cell that has the 24 in it, and then we're going to reach up here, export Excel, click on text, and we're back over to PowerPoint. Amazing. Now this should be interesting. We want to bring this entire date into this text string. So let's delete this out just like that and put a space in there. And then we're going to head over to Excel. Now this is a really interesting one actually with the date, because anyone who knows about Excel would know that actually what's in that cell is a serial number. And if you were to try to pull a string into one of these cells up here and get a statement that referenced that date, you'd actually have to use a concatenate function and a text function. And it would be kind of tricky. So let's see how this is done with Macabacus. Right into this cell with the date and up here, export Excel, text, and we're back over to PowerPoint. Now, as we mentioned before, pulling a date into a text string in Excel would have been quite involved with a concatenate function and a text function to get the formatting in place. Macabacus just did it with a click of a button. Now, as you can see, we're still seeing a little red border left over here from that guide that we inserted earlier. So let's click on this image right here and just click on refresh selected links, and that should come through really nicely for us. Perfect. Now, one thing that you should definitely take note of, if we just click on this slide and then use the back arrow to go to trading comparables like this, we just go back and forth between these slides. Look at how perfectly these are aligned. If you just look at these borders and go back and forth, they are absolutely perfect. Now, the reason that these are working so well is that we've used placeholders. And then all of these images are aligned to this top left corner of the placeholder. Then we used an export match none, which didn't cause any distortion to these images, as long as we were staying within those guides. Now, I know Scott is going to like this because he really appreciates good formatting, and for a good reason. If we have really tightly formatted presentations, that's going to instill a lot of confidence in the board that we're pitching to and help us to get that mandate that we're looking for. Now, it's still quiet here on my end, so let's use this opportunity. We're going to establish some links here for this DCF slide, but using a slightly different technique. It's going to allow us a little bit of flexibility to move things around a bit and create a really nice looking slide. Now let's start off by deploying a technique which has now become pretty familiar to us. We're going to click this placeholder and pop over to Excel. So obviously we're here on the DCF tab. What we're after is actually down at the bottom of this stack. So we have little navigational stops put in here. So let's just use Control down to index down through the various schedules, and we can see we're right here at this schedule at the bottom. Now let's scoot down to this cell right here. And this is where we're going to start things off. It's cell B202. Obviously, we want to go up here under Guides and click PowerPoint Selection to get our guide up in place. And now we can select across using the Shift key and all the way down just to here where the global units marker is. We've stayed within the boundaries of the guide, so let's do an export match none, which is Control Alt right arrow, just like that. Now let's imagine for 1 second that we actually want to place this particular exhibit over on the right-hand side of our presentation, maybe right there. Now we can go up here and refresh the selected link. But what happens is it jumps back over to the left-hand side. The reason that this snaps back to the left-hand side is because this upper left corner is aligned with the upper left corner of the placeholder. So we need a different technique. So what we're going to do is click on this image and delete it. And then what we're going to do is click on the placeholder just like this. And we're also going to delete the placeholder. Now let's go back over to Excel and export without the placeholder. So we're back over in Excel. Let's again do an export match none, which is Control Alt right arrow, and it sends us back to PowerPoint. Now let's just select this image and use the down arrow to put it into the place that we want. Perfect. So now we can use an alignment tool from Macabacus. So we want to align this particular image over to the right-hand side of this shape. So let's first click on this shape right here. And then we're going to hold down Control, click on the image that we want to align. Up here to the Macabacus section of the ribbon, and right here, we can see we've got a tool for aligning right. Let's click that, and that's done. Now I think for this slide, we should do something a little bit different. Maybe we want to have a little message in this text box. And then what we could do with it actually is just compress it down. We could bring it down here to have it aligned with that particular area, and then just do a quick copy paste so we can get another one down here. And obviously we'd want these aligned. And what I'll do is just think of some nice little bullet points to put in there. So I was able to drop some bullet points and a nice title in there. And actually, hang on a sec. Scott's just calling right now, actually. Would you mind? Can you just get things aligned on this slide and get some dynamic links in there for the numbers? Looks like we need to clear the guides out of here too. Could probably use a nice orange pop color on this number here and maybe the per share price down there if you wouldn't mind. I'll be right back in a sec. So thanks so much for clearing the guides out of here. And I imagine you've got the live link set up on the top as well as this one for 181 and this one down here for 466 per share. Now I could just align things pretty quick here. Let's click this first text box and then Control click the second one. What we're going to do right up here is align left. And while they're highlighted, actually, let's just grab here and extend them out so we could get them onto 2 lines. That's looking pretty nice. Now I'm just looking at this text box down here. It looks nicely aligned with the weighted average cost of capital. This one looks a little bit high. So let's click on it and just bring it down a tiny little bit. That is perfect. Now we should probably make a couple of things pop out here. So let's highlight the right here, 181 million. We're going to hit Control B for a bold. Let's head up here, Macabacus section of the ribbon. Got all of these compliant font colors. So let's hit this really dark orange, just like that. Perfect. So now down here, let's just highlight $4.66 per share, just like that. Control B for a bold, and up here, just to make that orange. Amazing. So one thing we should probably check is the visual balance. Scott's mentioned this before. When we step back and look at this slide, it looks a little heavier on the right, and it also looks like everything's compressed down towards the bottom. Let's move it around a bit. So let's just select across, just like this. We're going to want to get this image as well as those 2 text boxes. And what we can do is just visually move them over a little bit to balance them a bit more towards the middle and then a little bit up. That looks much better. Let's leave it right there. Amazing. So I almost forgot. Obviously, Scott called. I made a couple of notes here. What he said was actually the company's revenue this year is tracking ahead of budget. They may actually increase the 2023 revenue guidance at the next earnings release. He's going to try to get us an updated forecast in the next little while, just heading into a meeting for about the next half hour. Sounds like the revenue forecast may increase. That could actually change our DCF. Let's put a little sticky note in here. Up here to the Macabacus section of the ribbon, under Master Shapes, let's just click here, Sticky, and we'll just say, check model for updates. That's perfect. Actually, what we should do is move forward and do that on the summary sheet as well. What we're going to do from here is actually move forward. We want to get to the football field, and we're going to put a sticky shape there as well. Right here, let's just click sticky. And again, check model for updates. Seems like things might move for the revenue, and that might change things on our summary as well. It's great that we landed here because this is the next slide we're going to need to put together. Now remember, back on that DCF slide, the key to that image not moving around was not using a placeholder. And that allows it to stay put when we do the refresh over to Excel. Perfect. We've also got some sticky notes up here to remind us that the model might move with those revenue estimates increasing. Let's jump ahead to the next lesson.